AITA for kicking my girlfriend out after she asked me to fund a trip to cheat on me? A few hours ago, I got home from a long flight back from the Caribbean. Since then, I have had time to think about everything that happened. Although I have come to terms with how I feel, I would like to get an outside perspective from people who do not know either of us. Maybe it will help me see if I am in the right or if I am really the bad guy in this story. My ex-girlfriend and I were together for 3 years. We met in college. After we graduated, our lives seemed to be perfectly aligned. We both found jobs fairly quickly, but since I started working a little earlier, my career progressed faster. This allowed us to take a major step in our relationship, moving in together. About a year ago, we rented a comfortable apartment in Chicago, nothing extravagant, but perfect for two people building a future together. For the most part, everything seemed fine. Like any couple, we had our disagreements from time to time, but we always managed to work through them, or at least that is what I thought. This past year was particularly stressful for both of us, between the demands of work, adjusting to living together, and the general challenges of adult life. We agreed it was time for a break. A vacation seemed perfect, an opportunity to get away from it all, just the two of us in a tropical paradise. Since I was earning more than her at the time, I decided to cover the entire cost of the trip: flights, hotel, excursions, and meals. I did not mind at all, as I wanted it to be something special for us, a chance to relax and reconnect without any added stress. For the first few days, the trip was everything I had hoped for. We soaked up the sun on the beach, explored the local area, and enjoyed incredible food. It was like a dream. But the night before we were scheduled to fly back, she dropped a bombshell I never saw coming. She told me she was not planning on coming back with me. She explained that she needed space to think about our relationship and figure out what she wanted in life. She added that she was not sure about our future as a couple and that this trip had made her reflect on a lot of things. She told me she needed to be alone for a while, but asked me to trust her and that everything would be fine between us once she came back. She just needed some time. At that moment, I was in shock. We were in paradise, enjoying a vacation without any issues, or so I thought, and then suddenly she hit me with this. I did not know how to react at the time because her request felt like some kind of disguised way to end things. The worst part was that after telling me all this, she asked me to pay to extend her stay and for her flight back whenever she decided the time was right to return. She claimed she needed this time to think and expected me to support her in that process. Seriously, who does that? Right then, I was furious. I had already paid for the entire trip, absolutely everything, and now she was asking for even more. She wanted to extend her stay in an expensive hotel abroad and expected me to fund her return flight at her convenience. I could not understand why she was asking this of me, especially if her goal was to get away from me to think. It felt like she was trying to take advantage of the situation even more before moving on. I told her no, that if she wanted to stay longer she could, but she would have to cover her own expenses. I had already paid for our vacation and had no intention of spending more on what felt to me like her taking time away at my expense. The conversation got pretty tense after that. She told me I was being materialistic, that a good boyfriend would support her decisions, and that my refusal showed I did not care enough about her. According to her, if I truly loved her, I would not mind spending a little more so she could stay and have the time she so desperately needed. I tried to stay calm, but I was genuinely angry. I told her I had already paid more than enough and that if she wanted to find herself or whatever, she did not need to be in the Caribbean to do it. I suggested we go home together. If she needed time to think, she could do it back in Chicago. I did not see the need to prolong the trip just so she could reflect. But no, she insisted that staying there was crucial to her process. I did not get it, or rather I did, but I did not want to accept it. It was clear she was looking for a way out of the relationship, and, on top of that, she wanted me to fund it. That night, we went to bed without resolving anything. I was emotionally drained. I woke up early to head to the airport and go home. When I got up, she was already awake, sitting on the bed, but we did not speak. I knew that whatever happened, she was not going to change her mind. I packed my bags in silence and just left the room without saying goodbye. I knew it was not going to end well, and there was no point in continuing the argument. I took an Uber to the airport and tried to clear my head, although I felt betrayed. At the airport, while waiting to board, I got a call from her. At first, I did not want to answer, but I did. She was furious on the other end of the line. She accused me of leaving without paying for the extra nights, and the hotel staff was asking her to leave because the reservation was over. The situation was simple. The booking ended that day, and she did not have the money to pay for the extra nights she wanted. She accused me of being a bad boyfriend, of abandoning her in a foreign country, and of being selfish for not helping her when she needed it most. I told her she already knew my terms from the night before, that I would not pay for her extended stay, and that if she wanted to remain, she had to find a way to cover her own costs. She responded with more anger, calling me a horrible person for leaving my girlfriend without support. She accused me of forcing her to come back with me because, without paying for the room, she had no choice but to leave the hotel and rush to the airport to catch the flight we had booked together. The most absurd part is that she knew her credit card was maxed out. We had talked about it before. Yet, she decided to pressure me into paying for her extra days knowing full well she could not afford them on her own. Did she really think I was going to let myself be taken advantage of further? I had been clear. If she wanted to stay, she had to find a way to pay for it herself. She could have come back with me, and back in our city, she would have had all the time in the world to think about what she wanted. But no, she chose this path. Finally, I told her that whatever she did from now on was her problem. I was already at the airport and was not going to help her anymore. I hung up after that, even though she was still upset. I got on the plane and went home. Now that I am back after a long and exhausting day, I am wondering if I did the wrong thing. She made me feel like the villain in this story, but I still believe what she was asking for was completely unreasonable. I want to know if others think I was too harsh or if I was right to set clear boundaries. So, am I the bad guy for leaving my girlfriend alone in another country after she tried to extend her vacation at my expense? Did I really do something wrong, or did I just protect myself from being taken advantage of? Update 1. A week after my initial post, I am back. I did not think I would be writing about this again, but after reading so many comments and receiving so much support, I realized I owe an update to everyone who took the time to read my story and respond. First of all, I want to thank everyone. Honestly, it helped a lot to know that most of you thought I was not the bad guy in this situation and that I had already done more than enough. It is comforting to see that impartial people see things your way, especially when, at one point, I started to doubt my own stance. But here is the update, and believe me, things took a turn I never would have imagined. The first thing that happened after I got home was something I had not anticipated. I got a call from my ex-girlfriend's parents. It was the day after I returned from our vacation. To be honest, when I saw her mom's number pop up on my phone, I mentally braced myself for her to be upset with me because I had left her daughter in that situation. But instead, the conversation was completely different. In fact, it was surprising. It was her mom who did the talking, although I knew her dad was with her because I could hear him in the background. At first, the tone was formal, almost as if they were being very careful. They told me they wanted to talk about what had happened, and while I was expecting them to scold me, the opposite happened. My ex's mother started by apologizing. She said she was truly sorry for what her daughter had done and that they were embarrassed by her behavior. She explained that they had raised her to work hard, to not depend on others, and certainly not to take advantage of people in that way. Up to that point, I only knew what my ex had told me, that she wanted to stay in the Caribbean to find herself and think about our relationship. But according to her parents, the story was very different. Apparently, as soon as I left, my ex called her parents to ask for money. She wanted them to send her enough to stay longer and buy a ticket home when she decided the time was right. That was bad enough, but what they told me next was even worse. Naturally, her parents, who are not naive, asked her why she needed money and what had happened. At first, she tried to lie to them. She told them that we had a small argument and that I, out of immaturity, had left her alone as some sort of punishment. Of course, her parents did not fully believe her because they knew me well and knew I was not the type to do something like that. So they started asking her more questions. The story she told them was a mix of half-truths and blatant lies. She said we had argued because I did not understand her and that she felt trapped in the relationship and needed time to think. According to her, I had refused to understand her needs and, instead of supporting her, I had left her to force her to come home with me. Naturally, her parents were not convinced by this version, so they kept pushing. What she finally confessed shocked them as much as it did me. My ex told them that she had actually met someone else on the trip. While I was paying for everything so she could relax, she had developed an inappropriate interest in another man. From what her parents told me, meeting this man had made her question our relationship. Apparently, he made her feel things she no longer felt with me, and she wanted to explore those feelings before deciding whether to stay with me or not. Of course, she did not have the money to stay and explore anything, so her plan was to have me pay for her extra days while she decided if she wanted to be with me or pursue things with this new guy. That is what she finally admitted to her mother. I could not say exactly when she met this man, but during the trip, there were a couple of days when we decided to do separate activities, something that seemed completely normal to me on a vacation. I wanted to go scuba diving, and she wanted to take a jungle tour. I did not think it was necessary to spend the whole day with her. After all, I trusted my girlfriend. At least, that is what I thought at the time. I did not think I needed to be by her side every moment out of fear that she would cross a line. What made me most angry was realizing that her whole speech about finding herself was just a way to disguise her true intentions. Basically, she wanted me to fund her time exploring this new connection. I cannot describe the mix of anger and humiliation I felt upon learning all this. Her parents apologized over and over again. They told me they never would have imagined their daughter would do something like that, and that they were deeply ashamed of her behavior. They mentioned that when she had initially told them about the trip, my ex was excited that I might propose to her soon. And there I was, hearing about how she had met another guy in the middle of it all, and was considering replacing me with him. After the call with her parents, I felt grateful that they had told me the truth. Maybe if they had not, I would have been naive enough to accept her apology if she had come back saying she had thought things through. But now that I knew the whole story, there was no turning back. Well, after they told me all that, I thought that would be the end of it. But no, my ex returned to the country a few days later. I know because instead of going to her parents' house, who had already told her they would not take her back in, she showed up right at our apartment in Chicago. She arrived while I was at work. She walked in as if nothing had happened, unpacked her things, and settled on the couch to watch TV as if everything was fine. When I got home that evening, she greeted me with a smile and said hello as if everything was normal. She said something like, "Hey, how was your day?" I had come home at noon, planning to rest a bit before going out to buy something for dinner. It was as if the last few days had never happened, as if it was all water under the bridge. There she was, sitting on our couch, acting like everything was fine between us. I asked her what she was doing there after everything that had happened. That is when she replied, completely calm, "Do not be ridiculous. I came back from the trip, and this is my apartment too. Where else would I go?" That is when I lost my cool. I told her to stop playing games with me, that I knew everything. Her parents had told me what had happened and what she had planned. At first, she pretended not to know what I was talking about, which angered me even more. I could not believe that after everything, she was still trying to lie to me. I told her this was the second time in a week she had lied to my face, and she had done it in 2 different countries. After I pressed her a bit more, she tried to justify herself by saying nothing had happened with that guy and that, in the end, she had not stayed with him. She had come back, and everything was fine. But for me, the damage was already done. I told her that even if nothing had happened, the mere fact that she had planned to use my money to explore her feelings with another man was reason enough for me not to continue with her. I told her that if she was looking for clarity, here it was. We were no longer together. I also told her she needed to find a new place to live, or, if she preferred, I could have my name taken off the lease and she could keep the apartment. I did not care, but we could not continue living together. Of course, she started saying it was not fair, that she had not done anything wrong, and that she had not ended up with anyone. But to me, that did not change anything. If nothing happened, it was not because she had a change of heart or decided to value me as a boyfriend. It was because her plan to stay longer did not work out financially. The intention was there, and that was enough. Then, when she saw I would not budge, she tried to appeal to my compassion. She said she had nowhere to go, that her parents would not take her back, and that she was literally being left without a place to stay. I told her that was no longer my problem. So, I grabbed a few things and left. I planned on having my name removed from the lease because I did not want to fight for this apartment and would rather start fresh in a new place. Let her figure out how to pay for it. Update 2. This will be brief as there is not much more to say, but I wanted to share one last update with those following the situation. I recently officially had my name removed from the lease of the apartment I shared with my ex. And, as expected, it did not take long for her to contact me. I received a call from her this morning, and it was the first time she had reached out since I left the apartment. Strangely, she only wanted to talk now that the rent was due. Not a single call or message after everything that happened, but of course, as soon as it was about money, she wanted to talk. She started the conversation on a friendly note, saying we should sit down and discuss what happened, as if she suddenly wanted to sort things out. But it was obvious she just wanted financial help from me. I told her there was nothing to discuss, that everything had been clear for a long time. That is when she stopped being friendly and moved on to her next demand. She practically demanded that I pay for at least a few months' rent while she figured things out. It did not take me long to understand what she really wanted. More time to see if she could find someone else to solve her financial problems. So obviously, I said no. I am not going to fund another day of her life or her supposed quest for self-discovery. I think she had other demands lined up if that one failed, but I did not let her continue. I ended the call before she could go on and blocked her number right then and there. Honestly, I do not know why I did not do it sooner. As for me, I am staying with a friend while I look for a new apartment. It is a bit chaotic, but I am moving forward and hope to move soon. Update 3. Well, I officially have my own apartment now. And I can also officially say that my ex no longer has a place to live in our old apartment. Not that she is without any options at all, but she is no longer in the place we used to share. From what I have heard, she is staying with a friend because, as her parents had said, they did not take her back in. Our old apartment was expensive, affordable for 2 people, but impossible for one on her salary. Since she no longer has my share of the rent to cover the costs, she had to find another place to stay, and it seems her friend is letting her stay there for now. Interestingly, instead of calling me directly, my ex used this friend to try and contact me. A few days ago, I got a call from her friend, a pretty obvious attempt to get me to change my mind about our relationship. She tried to tell me that I should give her another chance and that it was worth trying again. It was clear she was repeating the same arguments she had used before, the ones that did not work then and certainly would not work now. I replied politely, which was not easy, that there was absolutely no chance of us getting back together and that I had already found a new apartment, so I was no longer in a position where I needed to go back to that place. The most awkward part of all this is that despite the distance I have tried to put between my ex and me, I still maintain a cordial relationship with her parents. I have spoken to my former in-laws several times, and what they have told me is worth sharing here. My ex tried to win their forgiveness, and at first, she approached them reasonably, asking for another chance to move back in with them. But they stood firm and told her they could not take her back. I will not deny that my former in-laws have somewhat traditional views, and the rejection is largely due to their principles. But in this case, I cannot say I do not understand them. At the end of the day, what my ex did, or rather tried to do, is something they simply cannot forgive. Even as parents, they told me they tried to explain to her that her behavior not only embarrassed them, but also deeply disappointed them. From their perspective, the fact that she tried to betray my trust in that way is unforgivable. I am not as rigid as they are when it comes to traditional values, but honestly, I think they are doing the right thing. No one should overlook that kind of betrayal just because the person who did it is family. However, I told them that if they ever changed their minds and decided to give her another chance, it would be their choice. It is not my place to judge how they handle their relationship with their daughter. They have already done more than enough for me, and they do not owe me anything. That said, the story does not end there. When my ex was rejected, she did not react in the best way. They told me she went straight to their house and started causing a scene in their front yard when they told her there was no room for her. According to them, she started yelling very disrespectful things at them, saying they were too old-fashioned to understand how relationships work these days. She told them that if they could not remember what love was like, it was probably because it had been too long. My former in-laws told me those words hurt them deeply, and I think that is where any chance of reconciliation with her completely shattered. I am still surprised by the extent of what happened and how quickly everything fell apart for my ex. I guess on some level, I hoped she would realize how badly she had messed up and try to rebuild her life differently, but it seems she is not ready to face reality. Update 4. It has been 3 months since I last wrote here. This update is shorter, but just as surprising. It turns out my ex does not even have her friend's place to stay anymore. And before anyone asks where she is living now, I will save you the trouble. I have no idea, and I do not want to know. I am not going to reopen that door, and honestly, I would rather stay as far away from that chaos as possible. How did I find all this out? Well, I got a call from her friend, the same one who had taken her in after she was asked to leave the apartment we shared. It turns out this call was not to ask me for anything regarding my ex, but to try and flirt with me. Yes, I know it sounds strange, but let me explain what she told me herself. Apparently, my ex could not resist the temptation to ruin what little she had left. According to her friend, the problem started when my ex began showing inappropriate interest in her boyfriend, who has his own apartment. At first, it seems my ex was getting close to him with the goal of securing a new place to live, but things crossed a line. The friend's boyfriend ended up getting involved in the situation, and that is how the whole thing came to light. Once the friend found out what was happening, it was chaos. The friend's boyfriend, in a desperate attempt to save their relationship, confessed everything and wanted to cut off all contact with my ex to fix things. I do not know exactly what they argued about, but the one clear thing is that the friend not only asked my ex to leave her home, but also cut her out of her life. So now, my ex has nothing left, nor any place to stay, at least as far as I know. And here is where the situation gets even more surreal. After telling me all this, my ex's friend, for some reason, decided the best way to get revenge on her was to try and ask me out. She made some sort of proposal for us to go out, as if that would be the final blow to my ex. I have to admit, it was tempting, not because of what she was offering, but because the idea of giving my ex a taste of her own medicine crossed my mind for a second. But I quickly realized that was not the right thing to do. The truth is, I do not want to be near anyone from my ex's circle of friends or former friends. They are just as toxic as she is, and the last thing I need is more drama in my life. I thanked her friend for the information and politely ended the call. Since then, I have not heard anything more, neither from her nor my ex, and I hope it stays that way. What is clear is that while my ex continues to try to take advantage of others to get by, it is no longer my problem. So, for those who have followed this story, this is probably the conclusion. Comment. I wanted to share a few thoughts with you after listening to this story together. What stands out to me is how much self-respect matters when things get tough in any relationship. I've learned that protecting your peace is never selfish. It takes real courage to set boundaries, even when it feels uncomfortable at first. Choosing to heal instead of holding on to what hurts shows true inner strength. Kindness to others always starts with being kind to your own heart first. I hope this encourages you to quietly reflect on the relationships in your life right now. Remember that you're worthy of someone who values your time and effort just as much as you do. Let's keep supporting each other as we learn to choose calm and steady growth every day. Thanks again for watching and for being here with me on this journey. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.